It's time for Darren's Top Tip.
Hi, my name's Darren Ashford from the Drum Lesson Academy, and welcome to another episode of the Top Tip. In this video, I'm going to show you how to port a bass drum head, a few reasons why we might want to do this, as well as a few tips and tricks to help you get a really professional result. Now, this kit in the studio is brand new and it came complete with this bass drum head. It's a standard logo head. It's actually a Remo Power Stroke 3. And as you can see, it's got no sound hole in it, no port. Now, there are a number of reasons why we might want to do this. The first one would be in the studio here. I pretty much use it for very contemporary types of music. And the sound that I tend to favour for those sessions are a very low-end thud kind of sound with some impact sound on there, without too much resonance. And the way that I achieve that is to use some muffling in the bass drum. Now, when I go to set up my kit on a gig or in the studio, I sometimes want to manipulate the muffling inside the bass drum to achieve the optimum sound. So having a hole in the front of the head can really help me to do that, whether you use a pillow, blankets, or a rolled up towel. Another reason why you might want to port the bass drum head is to allow sound engineers very easy access to mic your bass drum. So whether they want to mic the bass drum internally by putting a mic right inside the bass drum to pick up the impact sound of the beater, or whether they want more resonance by miking the drum through the sound hole, that allows the sound engineer a few more options. Now, obviously, if you are after a completely resonant bass drum sound, maybe something along the lines of the John Bonham sound, or the method that Keith Carlock uses to get that very big open bass drum sound, then maybe porting the bass drum might not get you that particular sound. But for the contemporary sound, it's very good. And one of the reasons why it achieves this sound so well is that it actually allows some air to escape, more so than what just goes through the standard air vents that you'll find on all modern drums. Now, I've already mentioned the third reason why we might want to cut a hole in the head, and that's to allow the air out. Now, this can impact us from a technique standpoint because in a majority of contemporary music, the bass drum is usually quite strong in the overall mix, the internal dynamic of the grooves that we're playing. And therefore, we invariably play with a heel-up technique. Now, heel-up technique does have a few side effects in as much that it tends to make a lot of drummers play into the head and bury the beater. Now, if you don't have a ported head, what can happen is that the air in the drum can't escape quick enough, and usually you kind of get this rebound effect happening from the batter head, where you can actually go to play one note in here with the heel-up technique and actually get another note after it, or even the initial impact and then a buzzed note. And unless you've got a very well-developed technique that allows you to release the beater from the head, then this can be slightly problematic. So cutting the hole in the bass drum is one way of relieving the air pressure within the drum when playing in heel-up technique. Okay, so there are a few reasons why you might want to port your bass drum head. I'm now going to show you the technique that I use, and I'm going to use a few accessories to do this. The first of which is this little gadget here. This is a cutting compass. This is made by a company called Olfa. And if you do a Google search for Olfa cutting compass, you will invariably find one of these on eBay or one of the shopping channels. So what this allows me to do is to cut a really true, perfect circle. And it's just like the compass you'd find at school in a geometry set, but instead of using a pen or a pencil, it uses a blade. So that's what I'm going to be using to cut the hole itself. But before I do that, I'm going to make a small template, and I'm just going to do this on a piece of paper. So all I do is set my compass to the desired, in this case, the radius, which will be half of the diameter, and cut out a small template on a piece of paper, which should look like this. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's a small hole in the center which is made from the point of the compass, which is going to help me to mark the bass drum head in a minute when we go to actually cut the circle. So that's the template. The other thing that I've got here that actually came with this Remo Power Stroke 3 head is this reinforcement hoop. And the idea is that you cut out a hole in your bass drum head and you use this to strengthen the hole. Now, because we've used the cutting compass, using this in conjunction with it is only going to further strengthen the port. So I'm going to be using that in a few minutes. So that's pretty much all the things I'm going to be needing to port this drum head. So without further ado, let me show you the technique that I use. Okay, so let's get started porting this bass drum head. I'm going to be using my template that I cut with my cutting compass. The diameter, just to remind you, is 5.5 to 6 inches in diameter. So what I'm going to do now is use this template to position on the bass drum head itself. I'm going for the 4 o'clock position on the head, and as soon as I've kind of located the place where I want the hole to be, I'm going to use the point of the compass through the hole in the piece of paper to mark the bass drum head. You'll notice that I'm actually doing this from the front, but you can do it from either side. The only proviso I would add to this is that with this head being a Power Stroke 3 with its muffling ring around the outside, I want to make sure that I position this template inside the muffling ring. So I'm just going to take a few moments to do that so I can position that correctly. Okay, that looks pretty cool. The other thing that I'm making sure that I do at this stage is not to have the template right in the middle and very low down. Obviously, the closer you get to the edge of the head, the weaker the circle is going to be. But also, if I have it right down at the bottom here, some of the muffling is, visible, so the aesthetic is not as nice. But also, the muffling could spill out of the drum. So I'm making sure that I position this around about 4 o'clock. Okay, so let's take the point of the compass. I'm just going to push it through the hole in the center of my template and mark the bass drum head. Okay, there we go. Doesn't take much to go through. And there's a very small indentation in the head there where I've put the point of the compass through. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that point to now cut the circle. And the way that I usually do this is I do this from the inside. So I'm going to flip the head over. One of the reasons why I do it from the inside is because the surface of the film of the head lays flatter on the surface on the top of this rack here. And one other thing to mention is do not cut this out on your favourite or your mum's kitchen table because she will not be too pleased. So I've got a rack case here with a piece of thick cardboard which will allow me to cut out this circle. Okay, so I've identified where the hole in the head is. It's just round about here. So I'm now going to put the point of my cutting compass through that hole. Let's just make sure that goes through. Okay, that's there. Okay, now the blade is arranged in this cutter that I move the cutting compass anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. So I'm just going to start to do that. And I'm not going to press particularly hard in the beginning just because I want to kind of get a slight scoring of the head before I start pushing a little bit harder and actually cutting into the head. So I'm merely scoring the plastic. Now another method of doing this is actually to hold the compass and twist the head. So I'm going to give that a go and see how I get on with that. Now it may start to move around a little bit, but okay, that seems to work pretty well. So I'm just taking my time moving this round. I can hear it's cutting through now. Just make sure that I'm still in the center there. Okay, I'm nearly through. Just one more bit. Nearly there. One tiny piece left. I'm Nearly through. There we go. Okay, so there you have it. Our logo head with our nice port cut out. It's a near perfect circle, a little bit of a snag just in the top right hand corner, but otherwise it's come out really, really well. I'm pretty happy with that. All I need to do now is attach this reinforcement ring to the inside here, and we're good to go. I hope you've enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. And the address to write to is email@drumlessonacademy.com. Don't forget you can follow us on all of the relevant social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, by visiting the website, where you can also sign up to the Drum Lesson Academy email newsletter and gain access to some exclusive bonus content, videos, and articles. My name's Darren Ashford. This is the Drum Lesson Academy. Until next time, have a good one.
drumlessonacademy.com. Take your drumming to the next level.